Welcome to Cyclone InCYders. I'm your host, John Miller. I'm joined here today with Aaron Hickman and Logan Shanks. We're going to talk about this week in Cyclone athletics. Football had a sloppy win against Baylor, but a win's a win nonetheless. So we're going to talk about that game and more next on Cyclone InCYders. Welcome back to Cyclone InCYders. The Iowa State football team won 38-31 over Baylor at home this week. Started out really slow, got behind there in the first half. I think they were down 14 at half. What were you guys' just general thoughts on the game? And I guess just going from there, what did you think about the comeback?
I thought it was a good comeback. Shouldn't have really been in that position in the first place, but sometimes these games happen. And I also thought that giving up a touchdown on an all-out blitz where Lawrence White slipped on fourth down, which reduced their lead to 7 and thus leading to them not covering, also sucked. But overall, a win is a win, and you have to be happy with the comeback, even though there's a lot of things to clean up just from that first half of play. But yeah, like I said, a win's a win.
Yeah, Aaron, I definitely agree with you on that. I think there was a lot of simple mistakes that got fixed after halftime. I feel like Matt Campbell definitely talked to both the offense and the defense, kind of helped them and figure out what went wrong. And I think it's important that we got this game out of the way. You know, we can't really play like this against Texas or West Virginia or even Kansas State. It's important to get this sloppy game out of the way. And it's great that we came back and got the W against the Bears.
Yeah, I definitely agree, especially it seemed like these games in the past, Iowa State would always find a way to lose. So that was very encouraging that the Cyclones were able to win this one and kind of, get that bad game out of the way before we got into this stretch that's going to define if we're going to make the Big 12 championship or not, really. But with that said, we didn't cover, like Aaron said. We were, 14-point favorites, only won by 7. And, interception at the end of the game kind of saved us there. But Was this a game you guys chalked up to Baylor just being better and coming in more prepared? Or do you think Iowa State just played bad?
I chalked it up to a good team getting off to a really rough start and allowing a bad team to capitalize on the mistakes they made. And I think once Iowa State really got into the swing of things, we saw that Baylor couldn't really hang with them. They had that touchdown on fourth down, which was just kind of a fluke play that Lawrence White slipped and they had an all-out blitz, just didn't work out. But other than that touchdown, it was just total domination by Iowa State. I'd say roughly like the last 33 or 34 minutes of the game. So it was really just cleaning up those mistakes and not allowing Baylor to just stay in the game, because when it came down to it in the second half, I think we saw that they really aren't that good.
Yeah, I agree with what you said, Aaron. We just got out to a very rough start at the beginning of the game, and I think you can see that our offense really shined in the second half. We outscored them 28 to 10 in the second half and got us back into the game. And I'm just glad that we were able to see the offense at full strength during the second half.
Yeah, I want to talk about the offense struggling. Brock Purdy started off with 3 picks, almost as many picks as completed passes at one point in the game. What were you guys' thoughts on like those early mistakes and just some of the throws that Purdy was making?
They were just mental errors. That first pick, he had Joe Skates deep for the first interception, but he missed him and just threw it maybe 2 or 3 seconds too late. And when you see your receiver covered but you're not able to get it off, you just got to move on. But he still tried to force it about 50, 60 yards down the field, and he just doesn't have the arm for that and left it short. That second interception was a bad throw that Chase Allen just couldn't corral, and then it took an unlucky bounce into the defender's hands. And then that third interception was a bad throw to a well-covered Kolar. There was pressure, and he just tried to float it to Charlie Kolar, and the slot corner was able to come up with a head full of steam and just take it straight for a pick six. So there were things that, honestly, I think we've seen glimpses of in different games throughout the season with Purdy taking those risks, and then it all just kind of came crashing down in the first half. But he was able to clean it up, and he played a very good second half, and also passed Brett Meyer for passing touchdowns in a career at Iowa State. So it's a memorable game just for him breaking that record and being able to have the fortitude to move forward in the second half and ultimately come out with a W.
Yeah, I think Purdy just wasn't in the right headspace going into the game. And I think going into halftime, he knew that the team was going to have to lean on him in the second half. Brees Hall had a great game, but you can't always rely on him to get the ball moving and get the points that you need to win. I think it was great, surprisingly, though, to see him play like this because it shows that he's still learning, which means he might come back next year, learn a couple more before he decides to possibly head into the NFL draft. So I think he just tried to force the ball into some places that ultimately he was doing more bad than good. But I'm glad that he was able to learn from those mistakes and ultimately have a great second half as a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked time and time again on the show that Brock Purdy's been having a down year. And really, we haven't seen him this bad, though. I mean, there was people on Twitter talking about taking him out and putting in the true freshman backup who threw 2 passes last week against Kansas and a touchdown. I mean, just some of that ridiculous stuff like that. I mean, did you guys see some of that stuff on Twitter, and what did you kind of think about it when people were saying it?
Oh, yeah. So I do. Obviously, on Twitter, people are just going to jump the gun a lot because your opinion is right there to put out for people to see. I will say, I think if Purdy had thrown one more interception or had a really bad start to the third quarter, I think Campbell would have been within his rights to bench him. And that doesn't mean he wouldn't start against Kansas State, but it also just shows what kind of coach Matt Campbell is, that he wanted to allow Purdy to work through it and just show his confidence in him and allow him to redeem himself in that second half when that first half, the way it was looking, all those turnovers could have ended up costing us the game. But like I said, it just shows what kind of coach Matt Campbell is, that he stuck with Purdy after all the success he's had at Iowa State and played a strong second half.
Yeah, I think the comments on Twitter, we can really just chalk that up as just being silly. I mean, yes, we knew that Purdy's interceptions were not helping us at all, but there was no way that, he was not going to start the rest of the year. And like you said, Aaron, another interception definitely would have made Matt Campbell think about putting in the freshman. But I definitely think that Purdy saw those tweets after the game, and it definitely has motivated him to start games better. And hopefully we'll see that in the final games of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. I think it's a little ridiculous considering the way Purdy just kind of blew onto the scene and has really established himself as one of the greatest quarterbacks in Iowa State history just within a couple of years here. And, yeah, he made some bad throws there against Baylor early in the game, but he really in the second half, he bounced back. And you could arguably say he was the reason we were able to, get that deficit back to a tie and end up winning the game eventually. But with that said, he did force some throws. Baylor didn't even get a sack, so that kind of shows how well our offensive line played. And, Purdy was under duress sometimes, but do you guys think he should maybe take more sacks instead of forcing the ball into some tight windows to get them interceptions?
Yeah, I think there have been some instances where he should take a sack or just find a way to get it out of bounds. His first interception, he could have thrown it out of bounds, but he stuck with Joe Skates, who was open if he'd thrown it 3 seconds earlier. And the other 2 interceptions were just inaccurate, bad decisions. So it's great that we have a quarterback who's so elusive, but sometimes a sack or just throwing it out of bounds and living to play the next down is better than the alternative, which is a turnover.
Yeah, I think, like you were saying, if we look back at those interceptions, the first one scrambled, right, I believe, juked out the defender and just threw a bad ball. And it definitely, like you said, Aaron, he doesn't have the arm strength for that. Second one, it felt like he was kind of trying to play some hero ball there, and it was just ultimately a bad fit by Chase Allen. And the third one, also just a bad ball that he threw. And I think he just learned from all 3 of those. And I think he knows that he just can't play hero ball once they're down. especially when that third interception, they were only down by 7 points. So that definitely, I'm sure that got him upset and felt like he might have cost them the game there.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Iowa State being down. They were down 24-10 at halftime. Did you guys think they were going to come back strong in the second half?
Actually, yes. Coach Campbell and Coach Haycock have been great at second half adjustments their entire time at Iowa State, and I was really just waiting for it to happen. I had confidence that Iowa State would eventually wake up, and luckily they did. I was fortunate enough to be at the game on Saturday, and I was also at the Kansas State game a couple of years ago, where they were down 38-21 with like 12 minutes left, I think, and they won 42-38. And that was also a night game in the black jerseys. So the whole game, I was kind of feeling those K-State vibes. Baylor is not as good as Kansas State was, and Iowa State really shouldn't have been in that position. But night game with the black jerseys, I felt the comeback coming.
Yeah, I definitely had faith that there would be a comeback. Heading into halftime, it was rough trying to keep those thoughts in mind. But then, you see big plays where there was a big kick return on Iowa State's part, which then led to a 22-yard touchdown pass from Brock Purdy to Charlie Kolar. And I just think that, and that happened 44 seconds after a Baylor field goal. I just think that it helped us, kind of regain the mindset that we're still in this game and that they were still able to come out with the win.
I'm actually gonna go against you guys on that. I was scared for my life when I saw that first half, and I was kind of having almost first game of the year against Louisiana Lafayette vibes. Just like it seemed like the team was just they weren't flat by any means because obviously night game, and we talked about the black jerseys and stuff like that, but it just seemed like they weren't in their right play calling and stuff like that in the first half, and I was a little worried, not gonna lie, that Baylor was gonna get one from us there. I thought we were gonna close the gap but not win it, but we ended up coming up out on top. So I'm glad the Cyclones could end up finishing that way. But we're gonna talk about the comeback here specifically. Iowa State started storming back, scoring touchdowns, getting stops on defense. What do you guys think the most exciting play during that comeback was, specifically really in the third quarter when they were able to tie it up?
So I'm going to go back to what Logan said about the kick return. Maybe not the most exciting. I mean, you can make an argument that it's the most exciting because it's a kick return, but I think it was the most important play was the kick return by Kenny Nwangu. It got them inside the Baylor 35, starting out with really good field position, and it gave them a lot of momentum to start out the second half. And the touchdowns were great. That big run by Purdy was pretty exciting, but just purely going off of how important it was and how much we needed that, I'm going to go with the kick return by Nwangu, and I think he's one of those people who he's not going to be remembered nationally, but Iowa State fans are always going to remember him for just some of the timely plays he's made and some of the huge returns he's put together, especially after all the injuries and things he's gone through in his career.
Yeah, I agree with what you said there, Aaron, about, Brock Purdy showing off his mobile QB action, and which then led up to a 17-yard touchdown run by Breece Hall. That personally was probably one of my favorite plays of the comeback. But I also liked Brock Purdy's touchdown pass to Chase Allen, kind of making up for that interception. And it was a tight window pass, so it definitely showed that he had improved over just 2 quarters after those 3 interceptions.
Yeah, we talk about Nwangu's kick return there on special teams making impact. How about we talk about that blocked punt that we had? I was jumping out of my seat when I saw them block that punt. At that point, were we already in the lead or was it a tie? But anyways, that was just an exciting play when you get just a switch of field instead of being at your own 30 and you end up being on their 30 and going in to score. That really was exciting. But some players down the stretch that really showed their, recognition of the week. Mike Rose and Breece Hall, they were given their or awarded the Big 12 Players of the Week. Do you guys think they're the best 2 players on our team? Rose had the game-winning interception in the fourth to seal it for the Cyclones, and Hall burst open in the second half on the ground and in the air because he had a receiving touchdown. Do you guys think they're kind of the leaders of their respective, offense and defense?
I think yes. I think Hall is far and away the best player on the team this season. He has the most rushing yards in the country, over 100 yards more than the person in second and about 300 yards more than second in the Big 12. And he's second in the nation in rushing touchdowns with 13. So I think as the best running back in the country, that makes him the best player on the team. But for second best, I think there's a case to be made for Purdy, Kohler, Eisworth, and Jaquan Bailey. But as things stand currently, I think it's Hall and Rose. Rose is first in the conference in interceptions with 3. He's second in the conference in tackles, and he just seems to always be in the right place at the right time. And he's just a really smart player that always does the right thing. And he's made so many big plays in his career, and the defense didn't really miss a beat with him replacing Lanning his freshman year. So Hall and Rose, 2 players that have been starting since they were freshmen, and they just continue to ball out. I think they've firmly established themselves as the top 2 guys on the team.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on that, Aaron. I definitely think Brees is obviously the best player on the offense. He definitely picks up the slack when Purdy is struggling on some drives. So it's really exciting to see his spark of the offense. And Mike Rose, I think, has been the best player on the defense this entire season. Like you said, 3 interceptions, which leads both the conference and the team, and 56 tackles. I just think he's a great player on the defense, one that we definitely value, and he steps up when we need him to as the captain of the defense.
Yeah, one last thing about the block punt. I actually just found this. It was the first block punt Iowa State's had since 2009. So that's just a little bit of, stat of the week, I guess. But, yeah, we talk about Rose. I mean, he kind of last year – a little bit freshman year, it seemed like he was really hyped up, had a great year. And then last year had a little, not down year, but just a little bit lesser than what his freshman year was. And I think this play this year in his junior year has really showed that he's, still the man on defense and the head there at middle linebacker for us. But we want to talk about Breece Hall, man. Yeah, he's the real deal because he's in the Heisman race. I mean, he has been really since the beginning of the year, but now it's starting to get legit. I mean, he's top 6, getting nationally talked about. And really, people have been starting to compare him to Troy Davis, the old great at Iowa State. I mean, both wear number 28. Read something the other day. Davis, I think he had like 1,000 yards through 5 games or something crazy the year he got second in the Heisman. But while Hall's not on that level, he's kind of doing it in his own way. And even better, he's part of a winning team this year while Davis never was. So that really could help Hall down the road in terms of getting even more recognition in terms of a Big 12 Player of the Year or, first team All-American, stuff like that. But as we said, Iowa State finished out with a win. They're undefeated in the black uniforms. Are the blacks your favorite uniforms at Iowa State, or what are some other ones that you guys like?
So my favorites are the black unis and also the all-white combo. Those just look really cool. And there's a lot of swagger when they wear those all-white unis, I gotta say. And I have a lot of good memories of Hakeem, Butler, Moss, and people in those all-white unis. So that's kind of my connection to that. But any combo we're undefeated in is going to have to be number 1 for me. So until we lose in the black unis, they're my favorite.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. The black uniforms are my favorite. Personal memory of mine is I was able to go to the Oklahoma game this year. That was my first Iowa State game, and it was just awesome seeing them, like you said, Aaron, have that sort of swagger when they walk on the field. But I also do enjoy the white top and red bottom that they've showcased against Oklahoma State. I also think those are pretty sweet.
Yeah, maybe this is just the classic man in me, but I love the throwback unis. Like when Seneca Wallace was running around, yeah, sure, they don't look as I guess you could say hip and stuff like that, but I don't know. I prefer the throwbacks and stuff like that. But yeah, the blacks, I mean, you can tell when Iowa State puts them on, they're going to come ready to fight no matter who they're playing. So it's definitely exciting anytime you see that as a fan. But Iowa State, they're on their bye this week. Maybe good for them coming off, that rough first half against Baylor. They'll be back at it next week at home against Kansas State. So that'll be an interesting one for sure. We're still gonna go ahead and pick all the games from the Big 12 this week. So make sure you guys stick around for that next on Cyclone InCYders. Welcome back to Cyclone InCYders. The Iowa State volleyball team had an insane match against West Virginia on Friday. Even though they ended up losing 2-3, didn't quite complete the comeback like football. They were down 2-0, had gotten blown out. I think it was 25-10 they lost in the second match. But then they ended up winning the next two. Didn't end up winning the last one to 15, but still a tremendous comeback on their part. You know, what do you guys think led to their struggles early in that game against West Virginia?
Just not coming out with the same intensity as West Virginia did, but they did fix it. And like you said, they were down 2-0. The third set, they were down 24-18, and they ultimately won the set 27-25. And then they dominated the fourth set. Couldn't pull it out in the fifth set. They lost that one 15-10. But it was good to see them kind of rebound. They just needed to have that intensity from the very start.
Yeah, it definitely didn't seem like they were able to get into those big rhythms until the third and the fourth set. Start out pretty slow in the first and second one, but I think West Virginia really took advantage of that in the first and second, and it was a little close towards the end of the fifth one, but ultimately it is sad they weren't able to come out with the win on Friday.
Yeah, and after Iowa State dropped that 1-2-3, they ended up getting swept 3-0 the next day to West Virginia on Saturday. So with that, their record now stands at 2-8 on the year. It's still a little skewed because they obviously had those 4 losses against Texas and Baylor, two of the best teams in the country. But still, I mean, it's still a little underwhelming for this team, and we expected them to be a top 4 team in the conference coming into the year like they always have been for so long. Do you guys think the team is just, worse this year, or is kind of the Corona schedule of just playing back-to-backs Friday and Saturday and only having a limited amount of games hurting them?
I think it could be a mixture of both, but also no non-conference schedule that would typically help inflate their record and make things look a little bit better is also a factor. But yeah, they haven't won a game since early October. And facing Texas and Baylor and Oklahoma getting postponed is definitely tough. There's all kinds of circumstances with COVID and just off the court things that I'm sure we can't even imagine and don't even know about. But this is a team that I believe was ranked 13th at one point, and they just weren't winning games you'd normally expect them to. They split with K-State, split with Texas Tech, now they've lost both to West Virginia. So now they just need to focus and finish strong against Kansas and TCU, make that record look a little bit better at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think definitely COVID definitely has a big impact. I will say we have seen I feel like we've seen some flashes in each set, in each match, of the great team that it could be for Iowa State. But we're definitely hoping that next season we can see more of that, more non-conference games. Hopefully all this stuff can go away so we see the Iowa State team that we thought we were going to see coming into this season.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily seem like Iowa State is playing any worse by any means, but it's just like they can't find a way to finish in some of those close matches like this one against West Virginia, and kind of like Aaron mentioned earlier in the year with Texas Tech, and the first week of the year whoever they played, it was Kansas State. Just like some of those close games, it seems like they're not able to finish that they were in the past. So I don't think the team's necessarily far off. But somebody that has been there this year for Iowa State, senior libero Izziana, she's second in the conference in digs, really leading the Iowa State defense. How has your season helped Iowa State?
She's been huge. Without her, things could be a lot uglier. And she's been able to keep the ball and play against some very tough opposition. And the season not going the way I think we all kind of expected it to doesn't diminish at all what she's done as a player and how she's finishing her career as a Cyclone.
Yeah, she's definitely a very consistent bench player that the Cyclones can rely on to keep themselves in each match, whether they win or lose. You always have her. She can be able to come off the bench and help the team out in a really big way. So definitely sad to see her leave next season, but hopefully she's been able to teach the team what it's like to be a real team player and get the team riled up.
Yeah, I mean, and So the Iowa State volleyball team, they got Kansas at home this week, and then they're on the road to K-State next week to wrap up the year. Wish them the best of luck. Hopefully they can kind of win 4 in a row there and make their record 6-8, and then everything won't look so bad. But like we said, Big 12, always a hard conference, no matter if it's volleyball, football, soccer. Iowa State definitely doesn't have it easy by any means, so it's always going to be a battle. And volleyball, they're hanging in there. Just need to get it done in the end. But moving on, the soccer team, they finished up their year this past Friday. Had a draw with number 12 Kansas to finish the year 2-6-1. Really just a tremendous year to finish, or tremendous way to finish out the year, even though they couldn't win the game. Kansas is a great team as their ranking points out. And, just the way the game kind of ended, it was a fun one to watch for sure. So I would say they were down 0-1 with less than a minute to play. Jordan Silkowitz, who's been keeping it up all year for the Cyclones at goalkeeper, she saved one, tossed it down the field, and Iowa State managed to sneak through the Kansas backline, get it to senior Courtney Powell, and she squeaked it in past Kansas goalkeeper to tie it up 1-1 to force OT. And then in OT, Silkowitz made some more tremendous saves to keep the draw. So really, Iowa State hadn't scored a goal in 3 games, and it's just refreshing to see them, at least not be on the losing end of one. So, we just wanted to point out it was a great way for soccer to end. We wish they really have a bright future there going on with Matt Fannin. He'll be have another year next year with this being his first. So the team really should grow into more and hopefully be towards the top of the Big 12 conference next year. So we wish them the best of luck too. After this show, we're going to be talking a lot more about basketball, wrestling, and still football. So make sure you guys stick around for Insiders for that. Next, we're going to pick all the Big 12 football games of the week. So we see you then next on Cyclone Insiders. Welcome back to Cyclone Insiders. Now we got the Big 12 Pick'em segment of the week. Just a few things before we get into it. We're going to be taking a little hiatus after this show due to finals and Thanksgiving break and stuff like that. But hopefully we'll be able to get a few shows in over winter break to keep you guys in the loops of Cyclone sports. This week for Pick'em, we got a short list of games, but we're still going to try to win them all, as always. Not a good week for us last week. Most people went 2-3. I went 1-4 because I decided that Texas Tech was going to win, but they didn't. And we weren't helped by the fact that Iowa State didn't cover for the first time all year. While picking Iowa State, we lost. Iowa State was favored by 14, and they only won by 7. But that's still not going to deter us in the future from picking them all the time. But anyways, this week we got TCU at West Virginia. Mountaineers favored by 3. Who do you guys think is going to come out on top?
So TCU took advantage of that terrible Texas Tech defense, and West Virginia's defense is still looking really solid. They held Texas to only 17 points, and they really gave them all they could handle. Sam Ellinger did not have that great of a game, under 50% completion percentage. I don't think he even reached 200 yards. And West Virginia went for it on 4th down twice in the red zone and honestly should have had 2 touchdowns. But one went in and out of the hands of the receiver, and the other one was just out of the reach of the receiver. So they played a pretty solid game against a tough Texas team, and I think they'll cover at home against TCU.
Yeah, West Virginia, I believe, just has an overall better and more efficient offense. TCU, their leading rusher is their quarterback. Now, he does have 329 rushing yards with 6 touchdowns, but I think West Virginia throughout the whole year, like you said, Aaron, has done a very good job of keeping that QB in the pocket, and when they do, making sure that they don't get any yards after they leave that pocket. But I will take West Virginia solely based on the fact that overall TCU is their offense is lackluster at best.
Yeah, usually we don't really feel for Big 12 opponents on here, but I saw the end of the TCU West Virginia game last week, and oh man, they should have had the ball on the 1-yard line, handed it in for a touchdown to win that game, because they threw a pass. I think it might have been a 4th down. They threw a pass, and their receiver just got pretty much tackled in the end zone, and he didn't get a call, no pass interference. TCU, I think, was even surprised that there wasn't a flag thrown on that play. So really Texas, they snuck away with that one. And this was even after, during that game, West Virginia had a couple reviews that didn't go their way. And, just while it's tough to lose like that, it still doesn't take away from the fact that they were in that game and could have had the chance to win, really. So I agree with you guys. I think West Virginia's just an overall better squad, and their defense is going to lock Max Dougie down, and West Virginia's going to come out on top. But now our second and last game of the week, because there's no Iowa State, and they're doing the bye weeks and everything with COVID. So we only got 2 games this week. But we got Baylor going to Lubbock to face the Red Raiders. Texas Tech favored by 1.5. I thought they'd have Baylor in this one, but I guess since Texas Tech's at home, they're going to give them the spread. So what do you guys think? Red Raiders going to cover?
I'm actually low-key really interested in this game. It's going to be one of those games that's like 2 bad teams that I think will actually be fun to watch. And I think it could be pretty high scoring. Baylor's defense is just decent at best. Texas Tech's defense is abysmal. But I'm actually going to take Texas Tech to cover at home in a shootout. I think Henry Colombi and Charlie Brewer are going to battle it out, and it's going to come down to a Tech touchdown with like under 2 minutes left.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. 2 very bad teams, but keep in mind both, interesting enough, actually stayed in it with Texas Tech more than Baylor, but Baylor still held on for a little bit. I'm also going to go with Texas Tech here. Honestly, for me, it's a bit of a coin toss. I mean, I don't really think one is overtly better than the other, but I think Baylor just doesn't have as good of an offense as Texas Tech does.
Yeah, a team that Iowa State almost beat Iowa State last week in Baylor, really. I mean, even though we came back in the second half and it wasn't really close in the fourth quarter, Baylor gave us a run for our money. We almost can't pick them. But I'm gonna still, because I think, Texas Tech, they're just really inconsistent. And even though you look at the records, Baylor 1-4 in conference, Texas Tech 1-5, they're still competing. And I just think Brewer and kind of the way Baylor was able to force us to turn the ball over, that's going to play to their advantage against Texas Tech. And, I do think it's going to be a close game, but I think Baylor's going to be able to sneak away with one, even though Lubbock's always a hard place to play. But I'm going to give it to Baylor. I want to be the guy picking against everybody. But anyways, we're going to see how that pans out. We don't really necessarily know when we're going to see you guys next on Insiders, but we're definitely going to try to get a show up in a few weeks to talk more about Iowa State football, kind of wrap up all the other sports, and talk about more basketball and wrestling before they get going. So make sure you guys stay tuned in for that. I'm your host, John Miller. We got Aaron, Hickman, Logan Shanks. We'll see you guys next time on Cyclone InCYders.